Hey guys, happy Monday, and here we are at the halfway point for the course, and I just want to reach out and say thank you everyone for all your hard work. I really appreciate it, and you guys are doing a great job, so keep it up. Now this past week in Module 3, you worked on your first Milestone 1 assignment, um, and this Milestone 1 assignment will comprise your final paper. At least it'll be about 1/3 of your final paper. In Module 5, you'll do your Milestone 2 assignment, and then in Module 7, you will work on your final paper and project, which will include an additional 6 or 7 critical elements that were not part of Milestone 1 or Milestone 2. So keep that in mind as we move forward. So I just want to take a minute just to offer a quick summary of where we've been and now where we're going, okay? Especially following the completion of Milestone 1. So where we've been is we've learned about the judicial system. In other words, we've learned about the hierarchical structure for federal and state courts. We looked at the primary role associated with each of those tiers within their respective structure. For example, when we're talking about federal courts, if we think of the U.S. district courts, we know that their primary role within the federal judiciary system is to serve as the trial courts. They are the primary trial courts within the federal court system. If we look at state and local courts, we learn that we have trial courts of limited jurisdiction, which tend to be our misdemeanor and infraction type courts. So courts that deal with vandalism, petty theft, tickets, speeding tickets, things like that. Those are your trial courts of limited jurisdiction. And then we have your trial courts of general jurisdiction, which has a primary role of handling the serious felony cases that occur within the states, and they also handle the more serious civil litigation. So trial courts of limited jurisdiction, for example, might have a $5,000 cap on damages, and anything above that you'd have to file in trial court of general jurisdiction, depending however your state is set up. But in looking at the descriptions that we use and learn about in the textbook. So we learned about the primary role of each, and that's important. So now you have a good understanding of the federal court system, its structure, and then the primary role of each of those tiers within federal and state court systems. We've learned about the key differences between federal and state courts. So we've learned about the differences involving the type of cases, caseload, how judges are selected. And I think one of the key differences lies with jurisdiction. In other words, the authority of a particular court to hear a case, right? So whether it be filing criminal charges or civil cases, you need to make sure that you're filing it within the right jurisdiction, right? Then we also learned about why these levels are important. Why do we have federal and state court systems? Why do we have this dual court system? And one reason is, quite frankly, is there are some cases that are not amenable to state courts. So crimes that occur between states, right? You got individuals engaging in crime and maybe transporting stolen goods from one state to another. So we have interstate crimes. Things such as that are not practical to handle at the state level. So we have jurisdiction at the federal level, which makes things a little bit more makes it easier in terms of prosecution. Okay, so drug cases in which we got people transporting drugs throughout the United States, those are good type cases for the federal courts. Now there are some other things as to why these levels are important. Still allows the local courts at the local level to deal with things that are important at the local level. And I give you an example. A small town in Virginia that has colleges, the focus there might be on dealing with rowdy students, maybe alcohol abuse or minor drug abuse, something like that. Whereas local courts in Los Angeles might want to focus more on gang activity, which is more of a prominent problem to them, okay? So you learned about those key differences and then why these levels are important. We also talked about subject matter jurisdiction, which is the authority of a court to hear a case and we talked about or specific type of case, such as juvenile matters belong in juvenile court, bankruptcy matters belong in bankruptcy court, things like that. And then why those are important, all right? Because you need to understand that cases need to be handled in front of the proper subject matter court. Otherwise, legal issues can arise, right? We talked about the idea of jurisdiction and then also venue, and then we applied it to our scenario. All right, so remember, since our case is a bank robbery and bank robbery is a federal crime, the focus here is on the fact that it is a federal crime. And I gave you the federal bank robbery statute in our announcement section, and I also highlighted it in our short module lecture, okay? And then venue. So once we figure out jurisdiction, the next thing we need to figure out was which court has proper venue for the particular case. And usually it's in that geographical area in which the crime or incident occurred. In this case, Washington, D.C., which is unique in and of itself because it's not really a state, it's a district, it's a federal district actually. But still in this case, federal district courts would have jurisdiction because bank robbery is still a federal crime, okay? So we applied the idea of venue and jurisdiction. And then you describe some of the implications associated with venue, and one of those that we learned about already is state court geography and venue, all right, and how those can impact a court case, right? So that was what we've learned about so far. So that's module 1, 2, and 3. Now we're moving on. In module 4, we're going to start talking about judicial administration. And so what we're going to be talking about now is some of the processes and techniques that courts use to more efficiently and effectively calendar and docket cases, right? So courts are becoming more overwhelmed. And so the courts have had to develop strategies such as case flow management, docket management programs, model continuance policies, things like that. These are all designed to help courts more efficiently and effectively calendar and docket their cases. In other words, get cases and get them moving and out of the system. And so there are model timelines, for example. Misdemeanor cases should in theory be resolved within at least a year, 6 months to a year for misdemeanor cases. There's no reason for a misdemeanor case to drag longer than that. Felony cases, a little bit more complicated depending on the nature of the case, but even that 12, 18 months, we should be able to get those cases disposed out. Bigger issues might come up with civil cases, but again, what we'll be learning about in module 5 is these processes and techniques that courts use. What we'll be talking about this week is key roles. So the courtroom has essential key roles: the judge, the lawyers, court clerks, things like that, docket clerks. All of these have a role within our judicial system, and they have a role in making sure that cases are processed in a timely and efficient manner. The bottom line is, if one of these roles does not do their job effectively, it has a domino effect and can impact the case. For example, if an attorney fails to show up for court or is not prepared and asks for a continuance, that's going to delay the case because now it's got to be rescheduled for another day. Rescheduling a case for another day potentially can impact other cases which are also calendared for that specific day that this case has now been moved to. So now we're going to start learning about some of these key roles, and that's going to be the focus of your short paper here in Module 4, is examining key roles. What exactly do they do within the judicial system? So you're going to describe some of their duties and responsibilities, and then trying to figure out how it is that these roles connect to the idea of judicial efficiency. Okay, so that's what we're learning on this week. So those are the things we'll be talking about more specifically in Module 4 and Module 5. Good job so far. Keep it up. Hopefully all these pieces are beginning to come together. Like I said, we just finished talking about judicial systems in modules 1, 2, and 3. Now we're moving to judicial administration, which is our remaining modules. All right. So in module 5, we have our next milestone 2 assignment. So take a look at that. get ahead of it, try to understand what exactly the expectations are for that assignment. Look at the grading rubric, the assignment guidelines, so you understand clearly what we're seeking. And then also take a look at the short module lecture where I discuss, in module 5, I will discuss the milestone 2 assignment, but also take a look at the short module lecture I posted in module 4. Okay, that's it. Doing a great job, guys, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks.